going to start in Rome, where Italy will be hosting Scotland in what is traditionally, historically, the wooden spoon off in this comp, but to be honest, it's kind of departed from that in the last fair few seasons, with Scotland kind of joining the rest of the pack as well, as it were, and Italy have struggled in all of these matchups, including Scotland. But as it is going to be Saturday, the afternoon game, so 2:15 kickoff in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. Luke Pearce is going to be reffing this one, with Andrew Brace and Craig Evans on the touchline, and Steve Terhige even, of the RFU in as the TMO for that. It's a colourful enough history between them. In total they've played each other 33 times. Scotland have won 25, Italy 8, and none of them have drawn. They've never drawn a game, so maybe that could be on the cards, but I don't know. Their most recent encounter was obviously last year's Six Nations one, and that was won by Scotland 52-10, quite convincing there. Italy's last win against Scotland actually did come in Murrayfield, but all the way back in 2015, that one by a score of 22-19, so that's quite a while ago in Italy's reckoning, in terms of this is quite a new team that we're looking at this year, and this is going to be a Scotland that are a bit stung from last week as well, so interesting.
Yeah, no question. Just as far as a bit of colour on the overall fixture, the fixture now has a trophy awarded to it, and this is going to be called the Cutita Cup, which is named after the ex-Italian captain, Massimo Cutita, who was also a Scottish scrum coach and a very popular guy. Actually passed away due to COVID about 11 months ago, and so the fixture is now rightfully going to honour him with such a great legacy in both countries.
There you go.
So yes, much respect, Massimo Cutita. A nice gesture to give the fixture a trophy named after the great man. And also just a little bit of colour as well is that the Gilbert Rugby is going to celebrate this event with a limited edition blue ball, and it's a cool looking thing. I saw a picture of it on Twitter, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing that blue ball flying this way and that.
So again, for Italy, for the Italy game,
they used to always do a different ball in Rome before it was standardised.
That's true, actually. There used to be some whinging from kickers regarding that issue. I remember from games in Rome.
Ramiro Pez kicked with a uniquely rounded ball. It was like more something rounded like or something like that. But now it's more standardised, but still a cool ball in Rome, which is no bad thing.
Right.
We're going to look ahead to the fixture from the point of view of each team, starting of course with Italy. Obviously just a tough week, obviously digesting another heavy loss, and that was a really difficult, irritating game in Dublin with the 13 player scenario and how it played out, and they probably emptied themselves for no return in a way that was immensely frustrating, because they played so well in parts of that game.
They defended very well in parts of that game, kept their width and kind of shut down Ireland's lateral play for large periods, even with the 13 men, which was quite admirable. But as you say, it does amount to like a whole hell of a lot of running and a whole hell of a lot of effort for naught on the scoreboard, or naught on the table as well.
Indeed, but it should give them some hope. The defence was very good. The tackling is very good.
Tackling's much better.
It's better than it's been in years.
It's a combination. We used to say that it was just the Italian tackling was so bad that we didn't even know if their defending was any good, because before their shape would break down, they'd have missed a tackle anyway, which is an assistant's error. So the coach is just looking at it like, tackle them. But this time they're actually staying connected this year, and they put in some mighty hits on big ball carriers as well. They are ferocious enough, and guys like Lamaro are dogged in the breakdown and have yielded some turnover penalties for them. It's been encouraging in that regard, and they'll fancy getting some purchase in that area against Scotland as well.
They were holding their width excellently, a bit like that Welsh defence, staying wide, and without the absence of a barnstorming carrier like Duhan as well, the Scots can get a little, like the Scots tend to be a wide first kind of team.
They do, so maybe they punish that naivety if they're faced with it.
They got it a few times against Ireland. They got it when a runner would just take, they'd stay connected on the drift, and a runner would take the angle and between two players, and Italy pretty consistently, the first guy would hit him and the second guy get an opportunity to jackal. And they did get a few steals. Lucchesi got a few. I believe Halafihi before he went off got one, and then Lamaro obviously getting loads of steals as he always does. And they've even got Bram Stain to bring in if they need him in the second half. They got good back row options, and they should be confident about mixing it in that breakdown area up against the Scottish offence. And if Scotland are going to play like they did against France last week, where they're just throwing the ball around,
barbarians-esque fashion, you could maybe punish them for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Win some penalties and frustrate the Scottish offence. And I think this Italian defence has shown enough that they have the potential to do that for large parts of this game.
They do. The issues do lie on the other side of the pill, though, as we've been highlighting all season, where it was the inverse last year, where we were thinking, wow, this is a fledgling offence that has some good qualities. They're just conceding 50 points every game.
Yes.
Whereas they're scoring a try every game, whereas this year their offensive shape is non-existent, but it's more just their speed or urgency to get on the pill
everything
proactively.
About it, like they get a steal, and it's a big roar, big hugs, and then they just forget about the next step. And that's like the key. When you get a turnover, you've got to turn it into something good.
Yeah.
And like sometimes Garbisi making a habit of 2 or 3 times a game, or at least once a game, missing touch off a touch finder. They need to play with much more focus on the ball. It's looking all too kind of Ledesma's Argentina at the moment, where it's like, as much as the defence needed addressing, the offence does need to be a point of focus. And when you have the ball, they need to go downfield and launch off set pieces. They need to be quick to fold. Like so far, it's hard to analyse. Like how does this Italian offence unpick the Scottish defence is a question we might pose to ourselves. What Italian offence? There hasn't been one so far. I haven't
really seen it. There's been that one decent try in the French game off the box kick that was dropped.
Yeah, but that was just a chaotic moment where, as you say, it was a box kick that was dropped, and then Garbisi had the wherewithal to put in a beautiful kick to his mate on the wing, who got a great score. That's fine. That's a great capitalising off a chaos ball, but that is not an offence that runs off a set piece that you generate from a turnover. We want to see what they want to do on first, second, third phase.
Yes.
Like last time out, there was like a maul that they had where they put some men in the maul, went forward a few metres, did a hit up through, I think it was Brex in the midfield, then Varney ran to the ruck, looked up, and nobody had folded around the corner. They had nothing. Like there wasn't a plan beyond phase 1.
Yeah.
That has to change. Like we know Garbisi has the techers to pull out good passes.
And we know that Varney wants to be a quick little halfback, and to be honest,
he's gone. Varney's out. It's a new scrummy,
Braley as well. Like they're all of a mould that's quite small and nippy and wants to kind of clear rucks. So you got to be there for them. You got to be folding around the corner, keen to get onto the ball. And we'd normally forgive that later in the game when that kind of disappears. When guys like Lamaro have already made like a million tackles, but it's happening from the opening bell. Before they were down to the 13 last week, that was that maul set that you were alluding to in the Ireland game, and they just had no one folding, and that can't be the case. And I think it won't be, because they do normally, in a way that they've been good on the defensive end as well, but they do normally target this Scotland game as their one chance to get a win that is kind of in the mindset of the Italians as maybe their opportunity to do something. So I expect to see them a little bit more proactive with the pill this time, but with that, it's got to be proactive with purpose. You got to have a little bit of shape. You got to kind of give options to Garbisi, who's your ultimate playmaker. Get Ioane on the ball more often than he is. Every time they get him on the ball, which has been all too rare this tournament, but something positive has come of it.
And just work him in. He's a scary man. He's a scary man for any defence. Like if you're looking at a line out on the left wing, he's your blindside winger. He's involved, and you need to be running moves with him involved, really off both set pieces.
Inside balls. And he basically needs to be their Corabetti style winger. Like get him off the wing as often as you can. Get him in on inside lines.
Involved can be used as a decoy, but he occupies the minds of defenders and puts fear in defenders like no one else in this Italian team.
True.
He needs to be playing off Garbisi. He needs to be an option. He needs to open up the space for the other players in the team.
Occupy defenders like Harris, and then maybe there might be chances, space.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yes. So be a bit more positive with the pill, please. Italy is definitely the message, but not at the expense of what they've been doing on defense. They've been defending very well this tournament, and credit has to go.
Exactly, and they're conceding, not as much, but similar to what they conceded last year. Obviously, the Ireland game is kind of an anomaly.
It is,
but it's like it's very different from last year, where last year they actually would have an equal share of possession for 25 minutes.
England,
but they just conceded
this fledgling England team kept them to 0 in Rome last time they were playing there, so that has to change this time.
Exactly.
They've got to score in front of the home fans.
They will end up conceding 50 points again, even though their defence is infinitely better than it was when they were conceding 50 points last year, if they don't produce on the offensive side. Because as it was with Argentina in the past year, like if you just don't attack and end up defending,
your
for
defence
large
is very
periods,
good, and you stuffed 19 All Black sets or All Black drives or whatever you want to call it. That's really good. You stuffed 19 attacks from them. Now that you did give them 37 to go with, so they scored off the other ones.
Those are some big numbers, but
no, they were just kicking everything as well. Italy do need to produce a bit more if they want to do it, and I do expect they will kind of arrive to that pitch of the battle with Scotland coming into town. And from Scotland's point of view as well, that's a different kettle of fish altogether, isn't it? It's just, how do you settle down and dust yourselves off after another? It's a losing record now. It's a disappointing campaign already. It's rounds 4 and 5, and they've had the break, and their tournament challenge is over as it stands.
We weren't lying at the time when we said after that game against France, and even to be honest, like the writing was on the wall after that game against Wales that they let slip, that this is going to be another really, really bad, disappointing, devastating year for them. And no matter how they dress it up, it is that already.
Sure.
They haven't got much to play for this summer. It's not a marquee tour. And obviously just running out of time to get silverware ahead of being on the impossible side of the World Cup draw coming up in 18 months' time. It gets grim for Scotland. But Mark Bennett was out in front of the media today, and he's been trying to spin it positively. He's talking about we're aiming to finish this tournament with back-to-back wins.
Get the winning record back. Yeah, that's what they're scrapping for. It's same as it was last year, as they're in that scrap. But it's not where they want to be. But the focus for this week is arriving to the pitch and going through their processes, putting their game together proactively, and being controlled in their ability to dispatch Italy before you look ahead to big challenges like Dublin, because that's obviously the last game of the tournament for them. But it involves arriving to the pitch to just no nonsense. And to be fair, they have been good at that in the last kind of 5 years, really, since last they lost or 5 years plus at just dispatching Italy and looking good doing it. To be honest, they've managed that pretty much without exception over the last few years, and they'll be looking to do that again, because they need some confidence back, they need some momentum back after that, they need some wind back in their sails, and this is a good chance to get some tries on the board and do just that.
Absolutely it is. They need to they just as far as their squad is concerned, they are going to have to freshen it up a little bit. Sure. And I think they're going to bring in some new personnel. There is a bit of news around that. Duhan van der Merwe has just received his ban. He's gone
red carded
for the tournament last 2 weeks. Gone.
That's no good. They could have used him.
Indeed. So I think it's probably a shootout between Kyle Steyn and Rufus McLean. If they don't want to do any funky things with Blair Kinghorn and make him a winger or something. But no, I think it'll probably be one of them. And both of them, to be fair, are their incumbent Scottish international form is excellent. Steyn, I think, scored 4 tries in the game against a Tier 2 opponent last year.
He did.
He's an awesome player. So I wouldn't fear too much about that.
No, I think their depth on the wing position is pretty good, to be honest. It's not the worst place. It is just that you're losing a talismanic British and Irish Lion for it. That's the loss, but shouldn't affect them for this game.
I was pretty down on Blair Kinghorn as a 10 option after the last game against France. I thought he came on, looked really, really poor. Didn't look like he could stick the passes under pressure that Finn Russell could stick, and it just was a very ugly look, them trying to run that desperate offence only without Finn. It just looked much worse, unsurprisingly, than it did with Finn. Even though Finn himself was struggling, but he did have a sparkling performance last week for Edinburgh against Connacht. Ripped them to shreds, was throwing passes this way and that, was taking it to the line, was throwing insides, outsides,
winning contacts, getting the offload away.
He played great. But Gregor Townsend perhaps shares my suspicions, because he's called up both Ross Thompson and Adam Hastings.
They're shopping around.
I'm 4 options at 10.
4 options. You probably want to give minutes to someone else other than Finn as well, similar to what we're looking at from Ireland as well with the Sexton things. Like, Finn is their guy, but they do need to kind of know a bit more about these guys in behind, because as much as like a great showing for Edinburgh from Kinghorn doesn't necessarily give you confidence that if Finn takes a knock in the first 10 minutes against Ireland, that he's going to be able to
there's kind of the element of, like, he's been in the squad as a 10. It didn't go great against France, but if it's going to go great at all, you're going to see it probably against Italy.
Sure.
So throwing him in there would probably be no harm, with a mind to changing things if things go wrong. But they've also got interesting quandaries in the pack. I think coming back into the squad is Johnny Gray this week.
That's good for them, because Gilchrist hasn't quite been doing the business, and the locks are just interesting, because like a lot of good Scottish we were watching some club footy, and like for Sarries you have Tim Swinson putting his hand up, putting a mighty showing in against Leicester last weekend, and you're like, Scotland do have quite a lot of good locks, but the balance hasn't quite been right in that top five.
Gilchrist in particular has been not good so far this tournament, and their whole pack has been not good. Johnny Gray, when he was in, was not good. He wasn't good, and even in the opening week against England, I didn't think he was great. And Glenn Young came in as well. He's an uncapped potential lock option, but they do need to freshen things up front. You could even stick a guy like Bayless in as a wild card, but like really guys like Hamish Watson need to show their form. Their best forward has been Pierre Schoeman, who has been phenomenal.
He's been great, to be honest. Yeah, that scrummaging pedigree that they've been bringing was great against France, even in that defeat. Their scrum looked good, to be honest, at parts, and got some stuff off.
Yeah, I'd love to see Ewan Ashman in the team as well. I think McAnally's been a letdown.
And another area where they have surprising depth is in hooker, and they have a few decent options. I think you will see some rotation for it being the Italy game, but what's more important is that they get their own game back, because the tail end of last week against France was just a bit wild, where they kind of lost the run of themselves and started running things, playing a very barbarian looking game against a very organised defence, and it got very ugly very fast. And to be honest, the tail end of the South African game, where they were chasing it as well, like back in autumn, was a similar picture of just getting all kinds of loose and not sticking to the process. Whereas here, they should be backing their defence, which has been good even against tier 2 or tier 1 opponents and top level opponents in this tournament already. Back their defence to hold this very limited Italian offence to close to 0, if not 0, and then from there, kick well, try and control territory, try and use the ball as proactively as you can, and the tries will come. Stay patient, launch off set piece like you do. That's what they're going to aim for.
Yeah, absolutely. Using the kicking game is going to be huge. I think the forward pack has been beaten up now, and just the whole team has been beaten up now twice at home in the last 6 months or so. Obviously, you look at the French game, you look at the South Africa game, just brutally demoralised in those two games. The forward pack needs to get back to its roots. This is a tough Italian pack. They've been physical, they've been excellent this year, they've got some good players, but if Scotland want to be serious about coming back and being one of the big boys and maintaining sort of their cred as one of the great top 5 teams, they're going to have to put this Italian pack to bed, and I think it's a good challenge for them. I think this is a tougher Italian challenge up front than we've had in quite a while, with guys like Lucchesi and guys like Lamaro. But winning that battle, Hamish Watson, like these guys, Johnny Gray, these guys who are allegedly great players, they need to show up, they need to be brutal, they need to get after them, they need to explode in the offensive breakdown, give them nothing, and if they can win that battle, it will be an easy game for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like contacts first, but also just be mature about it. Don't go wild. For sure, yeah. Don't go gunslinging from the opening bell. Even if it works, it's just not proactive really. They want to see. So run some patterns. If it's with a new 10 in there, try and run your shapes. Try and a few nice set
get your wingers involved.
Yeah, a few of those nice Gregor Townsend strike moves off either scrum or line out in the middle third or around there.
That's been how they've scored against a lot of tier 2 teams. They've opened them up off those Townsend set piece moves. They've worked really well against tier 2 opposition.
They're really well designed. When they stick the passes and run the lines correctly, they're really well designed. And you'll find it tough to see any defence coping with them some of the time when they dial it in. It's just a matter of executing when the pressure's on, but I don't suspect they should be in for too much pressure here, apart from what they bring with them.
I do agree with you. I'm not suggesting go bashing into them from your own half. You do kick, you do use Hog's boot, you do use the boot of whoever's a 10.
These are advantageous, and some of the loose kicks that Garvisi does put in those little territorial battles will be to the huge benefit of the Scottish pack and then Scotland's offence.
But the other, for me, the challenge for that pack is can they maul effectively against Italy? They need to be able to do that. They need to be able to maul effectively. They need to be able to carry effectively. They need to win collisions, get offloads going, get a bit of confidence in them, and I do think that that's a fair challenge. I would be very curious to see how that forward battle plays out, because the Italian pack is pretty tough, but the Scottish pack, if it wants to be truly competitive, needs to shut them down.
And with an eye towards what Bennett's talking about in terms of the eyeballing Dublin as the big game, they need to get some momentum and get some ducks in a row before they do that, and this is a perfect hit out to do that. It's the same way all of these teams use the Italy game as well. Recover a bit of momentum, but also find out a few things about your shape, try and run a few of these patterns that you're working on.
Maybe Chris Harris, who went off injured the last day, I know he's in the squad, but Bennett was in front of media, maybe you take him out and just see, does the defence work as well without Harris, or is it completely back to being terrible without him? And that's a fair thing to learn, but also they should be confident of stopping the Italian offence.
To be honest, they want to be confident of their ability to rotate some key men in and give good minutes to fringe players while not affecting the kind of consistency of their play or just the style of their play. They want to have a uniform enough way of playing the game even when some of those fringe guys are in. And then you're right, they want to just win that forward battle outright. That's the big challenge, just win that outright, and then the scores will come. Their fitness is in a better place, their offense is a better place. They're a better team than Italy, and they do know that. So yes, just stay calm within it and trust your processes, and the scores should and will come, I would imagine, if you're Scotland. Yeah,
I don't disagree at all. So yes, with all that said, how do you think it's going to go? Do you think
I think Scotland with a reasonably big win. I think a brief period of some kind of inaccurate play and maybe a bit of frustration here or there, maybe some a patch of play that's a bit stop-start and a bit low scoring. If Italy's dogged defence does contribute that to the game, that'll be good for them. But no, I think Scotland will manage to win this one pretty comfortably. I hope Italy get a try this time out. Obviously Scotland don't hope that, and I'm not convinced that they will.
No, but it comes from maybe a jackal steal of their own if Scotland try and run it out, and then kick it into the corner, and maybe a good maul if they can execute from there. But to be honest, that's where I was going with this, is that matchup of this non-existent Italian offence versus a very good Scottish defence that's excellent at jackling, especially when the intensity is that bit down. Could be, and just if it's telegraphed,
if they're just coming around the corner into a Scottish jackler, it could be a long old day for the Italian offence. And I think Scotland are good value for a win here, and to be honest, I have confidence that they've been good at putting Italy to the sword in the last few years, so I suspect this will be no different as well. And I think Italy will be a bit beleaguered after three pumpings and obviously the 13 men and then 12 men of last week. I think it'll be a bit fatiguing, and I think Scotland will be able to make that tell.
In and around 40 something points to maybe one try or maybe not.
Something like that. If Scotland are good, they'll get over the 50. If they're not, they won't. But that's it.
We shall see. Let us know how you think it's going to go down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to give it a like, share with your friends, and leave a comment down below as well. We really do want to hear your thoughts.